That was a common Bungles L. What's up, you guys? I am Sean Ross Sapp. This is the show that's supposed to be called Common Bengals W, but unfortunately, it has not felt that way for quite a while. One of the worst Bengals seasons that I have seen, period. The Bengals fall. They get shut out against the Baltimore Ravens. They drop to 4-9. Let's look back at their other 4 loss seasons or 4 win seasons. 2020, pandemic, Joe Burrow's rookie year, there was a lot more optimism then. Bengals had just drafted Higgins and Burrow. Zach Taylor was still a relatively new coach. You know, he was inheriting Marvin Lewis and all that, but a third straight bad year, but there was hope, right? The 2-14 year, I don't know that many of us were that upset with that because we knew that Burrow was a franchise-changing quarterback, or so it seemed. Because as it turns out, Joe Burrow only changed the Cincinnati Bengals' fortunes for 2 seasons. And when you are a fan of the Cincinnati Bengals, the ownership and the front office is very satisfied with the idea that you got 2 good seasons out of it. Andy Dalton had more sustained success than Joe Burrow did. Andy Dalton had 5 straight winning seasons, 5 straight playoff seasons to start his career. We are 6 seasons in to Joe Burrow, and he's made the playoffs twice, and incredible runs they were. But this week started off with a lot of faux concerns, as is tradition, regarding Joe Burrow. People are like, oh my God, he's like Andrew Luck. Oh no. Listen, it's not going to be like an Andrew Luck thing. And Jamar Chase even said as much. He's like, guys, cut it out. Like the false narratives. And I saw a reporter saying, oh, we're not perpetuating false narratives. Maybe not him individually, but plenty of people were, right? Plenty of people were perpetuating the false narratives. And I say that as a guy who works in media and gets accused of perpetuating false narratives all the time. There was plenty of that. Now, it's largely by national media that will continue to have a field day, despite Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow coming out and saying, like, no, it's not quite that. But what we saw today, this horrible loss to the Baltimore Ravens, was one of the worst Joe Burrow performances ever. It was a bad performance of which Joe Burrow handed the game to the Baltimore Ravens, and there was no fight for it to return. Like, I was there when he threw all those picks in the first game of the season against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but came back and almost won and probably should have won if they had a better long snapper, right? Or if they had a long snapper that wasn't hurt. This was a lot of the Cincinnati Bengals just giving it away. And again, we are in a situation where if you told me that the Cincinnati Bengals defense gave up 17 points in Cincinnati, I would say, great, Cincinnati Bengals are going to smoke this team. If you told me that Lamar Jackson completed 8 passes and only ran the ball twice, I would say, damn, we probably beat him. Or Derrick Henry ran for an awful lot. Well, as it turns out, he did. He ran for 9.1 a carry, while Keaton Mitchell ran for 8.3 a carry, and Lamar Jackson ran for 13 yards a carry. Overall, 8 yards a carry, because we're not going to count those 3 Tyler Huntley kneel downs. This is the most bipolar, non-cohesive team that I have ever seen the Cincinnati Bengals field. At least in previous years, they would suck collectively. But today, the defense was so bipolar, they could not stop the run. But honest to God, the Cincinnati Bengals have found out how to stop Lamar Jackson a little bit better. They got to him 4 times for 4 sacks, 2 from Myles Murphy, who had great back-to-back plays on the first drive. Then Demetrius Knight, who needed a game like this, fantastic back-to-back plays on the second drive. And you go, okay, Bengals are being helped out here. You had Jordan Battle get a very nice interception. He had a good pass deflection. He had a TFL. He played really well. But that defensive line, oh boy, they could not stop me today. Now, I know that I am not Derrick Henry, but woof, did they suck. I want to shout out Myles Murphy and Demetrius Knight, though. Demetrius Knight got thrown into the fire. I think he's going to be a much better player next year. He's going to be a much better player. Myles Murphy will have his chance next year. Well, he's going to have a real honest-to-God chance. I'm glad McKinley Jackson is at least getting reps, but again, that line sucked really bad. Jordan Battle has earned his spot to at least be in the conversation next year, but they need a veteran DB very badly. Geno Stone is gone. He ain't coming back. DJ Turner, listen, there were only 12 passes thrown. 8 of 12. What are you going to do, right? Like not a lot thrown his way. This game came down, honestly, to Joe Burrow. And very rarely am I going to put it square on Joe Burrow. But today, the game was Joe Burrow's. And listen, I'm not shaming T. Higgins for being hurt. It's unfortunate you can't control a concussion. T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, and Jamar Chase have played about 57, 58% of possible games together in the regular season. When you're paying them as much as they are, you need that to be better. You cannot control what happened to T. Higgins. That's fine. But Joe Burrow cost the Bengals this game today. He had a horrible game. He made bad decisions. Honestly, made his offensive line look a lot worse than they were. So let's talk about it. A 16-point swing was facilitated by Joe Burrow today, and I'll tell you how. There was solid movement on drive 1, looked very good. But Burrow, instead of throwing the ball away, takes a minus 15-yard sack that gets the Bengals out of field goal range. Field goal range for Evan McPherson, who has had, dare I say, one of the best years of his career, although he hasn't been able to really show his leg talent, so to speak, quite as much. He's having a great year. Should have been 3 points there at minimum. Sack, takes him out of field goal range. Unacceptable. Rookie-level stuff. And it's been a primary issue of Joe Burrow for years. However, I'm sitting here saying he needs to know when to throw the ball away. That should have been a thing that Joe Flacco, at least a lesson that he took from Joe Flacco. As we see later on, maybe that's not such a great idea. He puts a ball, by the way, in field goal range, above the fingertips of Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase can't pull it down. And it gets picked. It's 3 more points at minimum. And I'm saying at minimum. 3 more points at minimum should have been, could have been 4, or it could have been 7. Sorry, try to keep up with my math here. They were not going to convert that first drive. So Evan McPherson would have kicked the field goal. Second drive, anywhere between 3 and 7 points thrown into the fingertips of the opposition. That sucks. Towards the end of the game, Joe Burrow absolutely shits himself, pardon my language, on a blitz and throws the ball directly to a defender who runs it back for a pick 6. So that takes at minimum 3 points away from the Cincinnati Bengals. and add 7 to the Baltimore Ravens. We're talking about a minimum 16-point, possibly 24-point swing if he would have scored touchdowns on both of those plays. The score was 24-0. This game was squarely on Joe Burrow. Squarely on Joe Burrow. Chase Brown ran the ball 13 times for 53 yards, 4 yards a carry. Samaje Perine got 14 carries, picked up 3 yards a carry there, but he was largely brought in for short yardage. He did fumble the ball. He got hurt as well. That sucks. We got to see what we got in Taj Brooks over the last couple weeks. We got 3 more games. Let's see what we got in some of these players. Bengals are mathematically eliminated. So it's time to see. Let me tell you, Jamar Chase turned it around in the second half. He went from having some drops, having some passes he could have caught, and then just had some really, really good plays. Ended up with 132 yards. Mike Gesicki vanished during this game. Tanner Hudson ended up getting targeted quite a bit. Mitchell Tinsley almost pulled a couple down, but they couldn't connect there. Chase Brown ended up getting a lot of check downs. Like Joe Burrow loves those check downs, brother. 7 of 7 for 37 yards. That's nice for my fantasy team. Andre Iosivas dropped a pass that he should have caught. Andre Iosivas has, to me, proven he is not a number 3 receiver. Especially when it comes down to them officially deciding to move on from Jermaine Burton. And they clearly thought that Tyler Boyd had absolutely nothing left in the tank because they didn't even bring him in. Nobody brought him in for workouts. And 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that guy was number 3 on the Bengals. Iosivas has went from a catch rate of 60% his first year, 59% his second year, to under 55% this year. And a lot of those are drops. So just flat out drops. I do not feel comfortable with him being the number 3 guy next year. And I don't know what the tight end situation is going to be for the Bengals next year, to where they'll keep Gesicki or not. I know Joe likes him a lot, but we'll see. Tanner Hudson's he'll probably be back on the team. I've got no reason to believe he won't. This is just a lame performance. Now, our friend Charles says, problem on that sack, he needed to get outside the tackle box to throw incomplete, but he couldn't. You could have done something, man. I mean, that was minus 15. Minus 15. And the offensive line gave up three sacks, one of which absolutely should not have been a sack. So I'm not putting that one on them. Less successful than their previous games with Burrow and Flacco, but still, when we're talking about 3 sacks and I want to say almost the entire fourth quarter, Amarius Mims is out. Looks like he's hurt again. Cody Ford ended up getting reps. I'm like, all right. I can handle that. Mahomes' knee is hurt. That's unfortunate. I don't like that. I'm excited to see how Phillip Rivers does today. Also today, penalties absolutely hosed the Bengals, and not just penalties that they didn't take, penalties for 30 yards, but like I'm looking at that and I'm like, okay, there were like 3 penalties that were missed on the Ravens. Now, would that have changed the game? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But it's just, there are things that show you some promise. There are things that, like Demetrius Knight, you go, hell yeah, man. Some great stuff there. Miles Murphy, finally, right? But then you see Al Golden using formations on third down that get the Bengals absolutely burned. Bengals are a horrible third down team. And they're better than they have been. Like, let's look at the Bengals defense over the last over the last 4 weeks. The Bengals defense gave up 17 points today. They gave up 14 points against the Ravens the last go around. And let's see, they gave up like 14 points, or no, it was like 19 points against the Patriots, right? If you give me, as a Cincinnati Bengals fan, 3 out of 4 games where the Bengals defense allows less than 20 points, I'm going to believe that the Bengals should win three games right there. They won 2 of them, and their season is over. They got the Dolphins next week at 1 p.m. in Miami. They got the Cardinals, and they got the Browns. They could win all 3 of those games. They could, but SMH, man. What an abysmal season. National media on Burrow and the Bengals are going to be loud tomorrow. They're going to be incredibly loud tomorrow. Very loud. And the Browns lost again. I mean, they're a trash fire. And Deshaun Watson looks like he's coming back next year. Oof. Bills beat the Patriots. By the way, I saw a pick that Drake May threw. Should have been pass interference all the way. Texans absolutely rout the Cardinals. Commanders beat the Giants. Eagles stomped the Raiders. And the Jaguars beat the Jets. Jaguars looking good this year, man. Happy for them. Happy for them, at least. Trevor Lawrence, 5 touchdowns. Dolphins are going to crush the Bengals in the run game next week. Yeah, I hope so. I've got their running back and his backup as a handcuff as well. So, what changes need to be made? Well, I'll tell you one change that I made. I canceled my season tickets before this season started, and to me, that puts me in a percentile of good decision making that should qualify me for a front office job. There was just something about it, man. There was something about last season and me attending that Cowboys game that made me go, this ownership does not care about us. And buddy, for a day job, I cover a wrestling company that does not care about their fans and traditionally hasn't cared about their fans. Imagine what it took for me to be like, well, this is just too much. And this gentleman knows that. We've had many conversations about it. He says, Sean, what do the Bengals need to do in the draft? Well, first off, they need to fire whoever makes the draft calls is what they need to do. Do you see what you can get for Joe Burrow? They are not trading Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has a no-trade clause, too. I don't trust the Bengals' drafting ability, to be quite honest with you. The Bengals need a new head coach. I really like Zach Taylor as a guy. I haven't hated him as a play caller this year. I didn't hate him as a play caller last year. Honestly, midway through the Jake Browning year, it's like, okay, well, he's starting to throw to tight ends a lot more. That's good. Less screen passes. All right. But you cannot have the talent that this Cincinnati Bengals team has and be sub 500 after going to the AFC Championship 2 straight years. Can't do it. Cannot do it. So, wholesale on the Bengals, here's what needs to happen. They've got a lot of cap room. I don't know how the rest of my Bengals fan friends feel. You could offer Trey Hendrickson something to come back, but it ain't going to be what he wanted, and he's not going to be happy about it. And it seems like the split would be more amicable than him coming back next year on a prove-it deal at his age. So the Bengals are going to need a veteran edge. They're going to have Shamar Stewart, but what does that mean? Miles Murphy's coming along a little bit. I would bring back Joseph Osai, but you need a veteran edge. Now, I want to make this clear. I've been saying this since the beginning of 2023, and my tweets prove that. You need a veteran DB. I mean, a 28, 29-year-old that has done something and can still pull the ball down. Because that gets the Bengals in the playoffs 2023, 2024. There are very small decisions and some big decisions like Jesse Bates that have kept the Bengals out of the playoffs 2 straight years. And this year they weren't going to make it. They just absolutely weren't going to make it. But they need a veteran DB very bad. They probably need a veteran linebacker too. Jermaine Pratt was just no longer a good fit. He was just no longer a good fit, man. It wasn't going to work. He quit on the team. He quit on the team last year, to be quite honest with you. So it just wasn't going to be the right fit any longer. They need an interior defensive lineman that can stop the run. Will they get that? I don't know. Do they have the money to do that? Yes, they actually do, especially if Trey Hendrickson goes away. Since 2020, they've drafted 30 defensive players, and they're awful. Yeah, they're really bad. They're really bad. They need to make those moves. And then after next year, they're going to have like Chase Brown. Like, are they going to make decisions on his rookie year? How's that going to work? There's a lot of changes that need to be made. Front office, coaching. They're going to have to probably draft a tackle at some point, probably a right tackle or left tackle rather, because of you need depth. Because Orlando Brown Jr., his deal will be up next year, year after, and then you got Amarius Mims always getting hurt. Wish they'd sell the team. That would be ideal, right? That's what I'd prefer. Will those changes happen? Probably not. It's probably going to be the same thing. And ownership is going to hope that myself, other fans, season ticket holders, hold on to the hope that they made the Super Bowl in 2021. They made the AFC Championship in 2022. They had winning seasons in 2023 and 2024. Back to winning football in 2026, right? Need to make major changes. Well, it's not going to happen. But I'll be here streaming no matter what, by God. Follow me at Common Bengals W on Twitter. I'm on podcast platforms everywhere. Common Bengals W. YouTube, Common Bengals W as well. I'm going to have some off-season content as well, but I'm still streaming every game this year. Let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. What changes you want to see made. Bengals lose. Season's over. We're out.